Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. The North American tomato trade has been jolted like never before. In July 2025, Washington scrapped the 2019 Tomato Suspension Agreement and slapped a 17% tariff on Mexican imports. What was meant to shield U.S. farmers instead fractured supply lines, left American growers vulnerable, and pushed Canadian buyers to shift away. Mexico, meanwhile, seized a $12 billion jackpot, expanding its global dominance. From California's farmlands to Europe's grocery aisles, the fallout is massive. Let's break down the pivotal turns reshaping the tomato industry. Breaking the 30-year Pact. Why ending the suspension agreement shook the market. For nearly 3 decades, U.S.-Mexico tomato trade survived on suspension agreements that paused anti-dumping cases in exchange for minimum prices. The 2019 version added tougher quality checks and seasonal price floors, but in 2025, Washington scrapped it, slapping on a flat 17% tariff. The goal? Shield U.S. farmers. The result? Market chaos. Importers suddenly had to front cash for duties, squeezing distributors. Grocers struggled to plan promotions, while consumers faced yet another wave of food inflation. Critics say the old framework already kept pricing fair. Supporters claim loopholes made it weak. Either way, the mechanism that stabilized the flow is gone. Now, shipments are repriced mid-route, cold chain tolerances shrink, and buyers scramble. Domestic output can't hedge against weather swings, while greenhouse production stays costly. Strategically, the fallout is profound. Contracts shorten, risk clauses multiply, and procurement diversifies beyond the U.S. border. Ending the Pact didn't just tweak tariffs, it rewired incentives, making volatility the new normal. And with the U.S. supply chain unraveling, Canada wasted no time sending its own message. Canada's cold shoulder, from technical refusals to a lasting shift. Canada framed its tomato restrictions as routine, stricter pesticide thresholds, inspection rules, quality checks. But beneath the technical language was a strategic pivot. Ottawa had already doubled down on greenhouses in Ontario and British Columbia, ensuring steady year-round supply insulated from weather shocks. When truckloads stalled at border crossings, it looked like temporary rejection. In reality, Canadian buyers began swapping suppliers. For them, empty shelves aren't an option. If domestic greenhouses and alternate import lanes keep produce flowing, procurement shifts permanently. The impact for U.S. growers is brutal. Canada wasn't just a neighbor, it was a stabilizer, absorbing seasonal surplus. Lose that, and the dominoes fall. Haulers lose routes, packers run below capacity, vendors see orders dry up, and local tax bases shrink. Retailers read the signal clearly. Tariffs equal risk. Category managers now prize reliability, on-time delivery, temperature control, recall records, over legacy ties. Once embedded, those scorecards cement new habits. What began as technical refusals is now a structural reset. With Canada turning the wheel away, Mexico saw the open lane and floored it. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to Piston Pundit. It helps us bring more insights to auto and trade enthusiasts like you. Mexico's $12 billion power play, tech, greenhouses, and Canada's new Lifeline. Mexico didn't just plug the gap left by U.S. tariffs, it scaled into it with force. Massive investment poured into high-tech greenhouses in Sinaloa, Sonora, and Baja, featuring hydroponics, fertigation, climate control, and dense sensor systems. The result? Less water per ton, consistent yields, and stable quality across grades. Automation cut labor costs, while pest-resistant genetics and predictive planning aligned harvests with demand. Then came the strategic masterstroke, Europe and Canada. Mexican growers undercut U.S. pricing in Europe with reliable supply, while cold chain rail and long-term contracts turned Canada into a steady corridor. For Canadian retailers, it meant greenhouse-grade produce, predictable pricing, and vendors who could absorb compliance burdens. The operational shift is profound. With price policies at home and industrial-scale greenhouses, Mexico buffers shocks better than field-reliant rivals. That reliability, once California's edge, is now Mexico's brand. By focusing on financially strong buyers, top growers trade spot market upside for stability. In produce, certainty isn't just valuable, it is the strategy. But while Mexico cashed in, American farming towns bore the brunt. The human cost at home, when a category collapses. Charts don't show the pain when crop economics collapse. For growers, every expense, seed, fertilizer, fuel, labor, land loans, depends on predictable markets. When that predictability vanished, lenders tightened, collateral demands rose, and cash dried up just as payroll and harvest bills arrived. Farms sold equipment, left fields fallow or defaulted. The ripple spread fast. Packing houses cut shifts, truckers lost routes, repair shops sat idle, and diners emptied out. Schools felt enrollment declines as families left, slashing budgets and programs. Rural clinics, already thin, reduced hours or closed lines of care. Property values slipped, draining household wealth and local tax revenue. Pivoting isn't easy. Switching to peppers or cucumbers means high capital and small markets, often creating more fragility. Logistics only work at scale. Once lane density disappears, costs rise. Some resilience exists. Co-ops pooling resources, greenhouse conversions, or direct-to-retailer partnerships. But agriculture moves on nature's clock, not policy cycles. Recovery is slow, long after headlines fade. And with communities strained, procurement strategies themselves are being rewritten. Food as strategy, the new procurement playbook. Tomatoes are no longer just about price, they're about resilience. Retailers now score suppliers on reliability, on-time delivery, cold chain integrity, and audit histories. Multi-origin sourcing is standard. Canadian greenhouses, Mexican field and greenhouse supply, and U.S. buys in peak seasons. Category managers build supply ladders, reserving promotions for the most dependable partners. Procurement now models cost corridors, rather than chasing single low prices. Winners are those who guarantee 52-week supply with minimal surprises. For policymakers, tomatoes are a warning. Abrupt rule changes push markets to reroute permanently. Canada invested in greenhouse scale. Mexico industrialized farming and logistics, while the U.S. risks falling behind. To compete, America needs faster permitting, incentives for controlled environment agriculture, and financing that treats greenhouses as assets. Universities must close gaps with better genetics, climate control, and predictive analytics. For growers, the choice is adapt or shrink. For buyers, it's commit to stability. Tomatoes aren't an exception. They're the blueprint for North America's produce future. Which brings us to the bigger picture and the sobering final verdict. Verdict: America stalls, Mexico accelerates. What began as a tariff meant to protect U.S. growers has detonated into a continental power shift. Mexico, leveraging technology and smart logistics, has surged into the lead, winning new markets and locking in Canadian buyers. Canada, meanwhile, has invested in greenhouses to insulate itself from volatility. And American farming towns? They're left battling rising bankruptcies, shrinking markets, and vanishing stability. The takeaway is sobering. Tariffs are yesterday's blunt weapon, while Mexico builds tomorrow's agricultural machine. Tomatoes aren't just food anymore. They're strategy, leverage, and a glimpse at the battles looming in wheat, soy, and beyond. Before we wrap up, we love to hear from you. Were these trade disruptions inevitable, or could Washington have managed them differently? Do you think Mexico's high-tech approach will become the blueprint for all of North America's agriculture? And for U.S. farmers, is the path forward adaptation or slow decline? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button to Piston Pundit to get notified on the next vehicle updates, trade insights, and stories shaping the industries that drive us. Thanks for watching, and see you at the next pit stop. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.